problem with many methods is they do it all the time. I mean, they fast all the time. So when you say intermittent fasting, I think you're talking about doing it every single day. And that's what many people do. Then the thing about mTOR and autophagy too, people think, okay, we need to activate autophagy, and they do it every single day. Or we need to build our muscles, and they feel they need to do it every single day. Intermittent fasting, new myth debunked, and benefit you shouldn't ignore. That's something I'm going to talk about today, so stick around. Hi, my name is Hachiaki Takamiya. I am the author of the Ikigai Diet and Ikigai Biohacking. Okay, so did you have a good Christmas? Yeah, and good winter solstice? Did you practice fasting, like sort of, prolonged fasting? Yeah, I ended up doing 41-hour fasting because I had to cut some firewood that day and I needed a bit more energy. So, after, around noon, I decided to have lunch so that I could do the firewood cutting in the afternoon. Yeah, but it was long enough for me and it was really great. So, and then I had the natto salad first, and then during the weekend, yeah, I kind of had a feast with the Christmas dishes, including Christmas pudding and everything. And then also I drank some wine as well. Right, good. Okay, so now today I'd like to kind of give a summary of some of the protocols I have been recommending this year. And today I'm going to focus on intermittent fasting because I practice intermittent fasting called Hare and Hare intermittent fasting, right? So what is Hare and Hare intermittent fasting? And then recently, some people have stopped practicing intermittent fasting. So there seem to be some drawbacks, yeah, of intermittent fasting. So what they are and why am I still continuing intermittent fasting? So I will explain everything today. So please watch the video until the end. So what is Hare and Hare intermittent fasting? Yeah. So this is the intermittent fasting program I practice. I divide the fasting period between the week and the weekend. So I only practice fasting during the week, but not on the weekend. Yeah. And so you can do 17 hours fast for 5 days a week, and you take a break on the weekend, but you can do 16 hours fast too. I mean, in the beginning, maybe it's better to start from like a shorter fasting period. Yeah. But now I do slightly differently. Well, for a period, I did this Hare and Hare gut cleansing autophagy fasting that kind of include 1 day of the week of a prolonged fast, like 24 hours fast. So I did 17 hours fast 4 days a week, and then 24 hours fast 1 day a week, and the weekend is the rest period. Yeah. But recently, I've been doing this version where I practice 36 hours fast once a week. So in this case, the next day I have 3 meals because I basically fast from a Tuesday dinner. So the last meal is a Tuesday dinner, and then I don't eat at all on Wednesday, and then I have breakfast on Thursday. So dinner to the breakfast on Thursday for 36 hours fast. So with this system, I basically fast only 4 days a week, and I eat 3 meals 3 days a week. Right. Okay. So recently, some people have stopped practicing intermittent fasting, including some experts or the people who are advocating intermittent fasting a few years ago. Yeah. And some of them have stopped. Right. So why? Why have they stopped? Now, some of the drawbacks of intermittent fasting, according to them, are one, it might lead to nutritional deficiency, especially protein, yeah? Because you need protein for your muscle mass, yeah. Now, intermittent fasting is great for autophagy, yeah, which is important for longevity, and it can protect you from developing certain diseases such as cancer, diabetes, and stuff like that. But you need muscle mass for injury protection. Yeah, even though you can avoid catching diseases, yeah, if you have an accident, if you fall, if you injure your bone and stuff, and then you'll be bedridden and it won't be good for longevity. Yeah. For some people say the protein is essential. And then by practicing intermittent fasting, you may not gain sufficient protein. Right. And the next one is, to activate autophagy, intermittent fasting may not be enough. I mean, so if you are fasting to activate autophagy, which many people do, yeah, IF may not be enough. You need to do prolonged fasting, fasting over 24 hours. Yeah. So if you're doing like 16 hours or even 17 hours fast every day, it may not be enough. So in that case, what is the point of doing it? Yeah. And also, exercise can activate autophagy too. Then you might as well exercise to activate autophagy, right? And then the last reason is if you skip breakfast, which many people do when they practice intermittent fasting, it may not be good for your circadian rhythm. Yeah. So according to the circadian rhythm, it is good to fast at night and eat during the day. Yeah. So especially if you practice OMAD, like one day a meal where you have only dinner, that means you're fasting most of the daytime and then eating at night. So it's kind of your cycle is the opposite to the circadian rhythm. So in that sense, it may not be good. But if you have just 2 meals a day, lunch and dinner may not be too bad because you're just speaking breakfast. But some people feel, you may be still breaking your circadian rhythm, right? Okay, so let's look at each area closely. Now, first, protein deficiency and decrease of muscle mass, right? Okay. Those people who promote protein intake says, therefore, you should eat 3 meals with plenty of protein and activate autophagy with exercise. Yeah, if you want to activate autophagy, then you can use exercise to do it. You don't need to fast. This way, you can get plenty of protein and you can also activate autophagy at the same time. Yeah. Now, however, as far as this protein intake amount is concerned, the opinions are divided. Yeah, they're conflicting information. Especially divided between experts who are kind of more pro plant-based diet and experts who are more pro animal-based diet or animal including diet. Yeah. So for the plant-based camp, RDA, which is recommended daily allowance, which is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight, is sufficient. Yeah. But for the animal side, uh, that is not sufficient. You need, 1.2 to 1.5 grams per kilogram of body weight, or even more. Some people say you need 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. Right. Well, if it's like between 1.2 to 1.5 grams, it is kind of possible to have it within your 8-hour eating window, right? I mean, it is probably possible to have it in 2 meals, both lunch and dinner. But if it was difficult, you can just have kind of a snack, like a protein, snack in between. So having kind of sort of 3 meals within that, eating window. And then yeah, it is still possible to practice intermittent fasting and get more protein. Yeah. Um, However, there's another point to this protein amount. And that is, so high protein diet induces mTOR. Yeah, so there is a view saying that high protein diet induces mTOR. Now, what is mTOR? Yeah, so we have autophagy and mTOR. So autophagy is the cellular recycling mechanism, and that is considered to be important for longevity, for health and longevity. And when we are young, this function naturally works. Yeah, but as we get older, this function deteriorates, so we need to constantly activate it. And fasting is one way of activating autophagy, and exercise is another way. Yeah. Now, mTOR is the major regulator of growth. It's a kind of opposite of autophagy. In fact, when autophagy is on, mTOR is off. And when the mTOR is on, autophagy is off. You cannot have them on at the same time. So it's a kind of a opposite quality and a sort of trade-off situation. Yeah. For longevity, usually it is considered that you want to have autophagy on most of the time, and you need to suppress mTOR. Yeah. So having high protein diet, yeah, induces mTOR. So from that point of view, it isn't actually good for longevity. Yeah. Um, so that is another thing you need to take into account, right? Um, so it depends on your point of view or your priority, whether you want to prioritize the longevity aspect of, like activating autophagy so that you will reduce the risk of catching different kind of diseases like cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and so on, or you are worried about muscle mass, especially for injury prevention. Yeah. Which do you want to prioritize? Yeah. So that's the one question. But also, strength training can increase your muscle mass too. I mean, of course, you do need protein, but protein is not the only thing. I mean, whether to do strength training a lot or not makes a lot of difference. So many vegans who don't have a high protein intake, still have a lot of muscles by doing the strength training. So it isn't impossible. So you need to think about that too. Now, the next point, so to activate autophagy, intermittent fasting may not be enough. And exercise can also activate autophagy. Therefore, maybe you don't need to fast. Yeah. So, yeah, that is true, possibly. Yeah. But I still like to do intermittent fasting because it can give the gut a break. Yeah. I do fast to activate autophagy too, but that's not the only purpose. Yeah, giving the gut a break is also crucial, and probably it is more important for me. Because we eat too much. Generally speaking, I think we eat too much. And too often, we're constantly eating, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks, and so on. And then the gut is constantly at work. There's no break. Yeah. I feel so much better, after, starting to practice intermittent fasting because I feel my gut has a lot of break and, feels very comfortable. Yeah. And so generally speaking, they say you need at least 12 hours of resting period for the gut. Yeah. So even if you stop intermittent fasting, you need to give 12 hours of break. So if you finish eating dinner at 8 p.m., and if you eat breakfast at 8 a.m., that's 12 hours break. Yeah. But again, it depends on what you eat too, because if you eat meat, it takes longer time to digest. So you might need longer hours. So I would say between 12 to 14 hours. Yeah. So if you finish eating at 8 p.m., then you can have breakfast at 10 a.m., then you have 14 hours of your fasting window. But still, I feel over 16 hours is better. So 16 to 17 hours fast, I feel I have given enough break to my gut. Yeah. Okay, so what about prolonged fasting instead of IF. Yeah. If IF itself doesn't activate autophagy. Well, it's not that it doesn't activate autophagy, but there are different degrees of autophagy, the different degrees of cellular repairing. So I think depending on the length of fasting, you can kind of repair further, areas of like, cells and stuff like that. Yeah. So I mean, doing 16 hours or 7 hours, fasting is still worth doing it, but it is better if you do it over 24 hours. Yeah. So in this case, maybe you can do prolonged fasting, once a week or twice a week instead of doing intermittent fasting. That is an option. Or you can do like maybe a few days fast, like, 2 days fast once a month or something. Yeah. And in fact, it is actually good from the point of view of spiritual biohacking because, the fasting has been practiced in many spiritual traditions throughout the world. And the fasting they did is more like prolonged fasting, not the short fasting. Usually they fast the whole day or 2 days or 3 days, right? So from that point of view, if you want to practice fasting for the spiritual purposes, maybe prolonged fasting is better. Yeah, but with this method, because I have a 36-hour fast once a week, it is a prolonged fasting, and I feel it is long enough to have some spiritual benefit too. Yeah, so I do really enjoy this fasting schedule because, I do a 7 hours fast 3 days a week and one day 36 hours fast, and I have a 3 days to have 3 meals, and that's where when I can get enough protein. So it is a well balanced fasting schedule. And what is great about this system is Hare and the Hare. Yeah. So what is Hare and the Hare again? Hare means a period of festival celebrations, and Hare is a usual period. So in Japan, we made a distinction between Hare and Kei. So usually it's a Kei period where we had a simple frugal meals. And then the time of Hare, we had a feast. Yeah, we had like big meals and we, celebrated for someone's birthday or someone's wedding or, someone's, graduation ceremony and stuff like that. Those festive occasions. Yeah. So I applied this concept in my intermittent fasting schedule. And then I divided the week and the weekend. So during the week, it's a K period. The weekend is Hare period. So during the week, the K period is autophagy activating period. And then Hare period is mTOR activating period. So the K period, I kind of focus on the repairing the cells. And then Hare period is more like building, muscle mass and stuff like that. So the problem of many methods is they do it all the time. I mean, they fast all the time. So when you say intermittent fasting, I think you're talking about doing it every single day. And that's what many people do. If they decide to do 16 hours fast, they do it every single day. But I don't do it. Yeah, with this system, it's only during the week, not on the weekend. So it changes everything. Yeah. And then the thing about mTOR and autophagy too. People think, okay, we need to activate autophagy, and they do it every single day, or we need to build our muscle, and then they feel they need to do it every single day. So that is a mistake. Yeah. So there are times to activate autophagy and time to, activate mTOR. Both are important. Yeah. In fact, this is called autophagy and mTOR cycling, and many people are actually saying it. One person is James W. Clement, who is the author of The Switch, Ignite Your Metabolism with Intermittent Fasting, Protein Cycling, and Keto. Yeah. So he says we need to activate autophagy about 60% of the time, but we also need to activate mTOR about 40% of the time, because during the hunter-gatherer period, yeah, most of the time people were hungry, yeah, because they couldn't hunt anything. So during the hunting period, they were still hungry, and then when they caught some animal, then they had a feast. So, they stayed hungry and full, hungry and full. This cycling was common during that time. So that means even today, it still applies. Yeah. And another person who is promoting a similar view is Dr. Mindy Pelz, who is an expert on fasting. She has a intermittent fasting channel. She says about 80% of the time it should be used for autophagy activation and 20% mTOR activation. So with this Hare and K system, 71% is autophagy activation and 29% is mTOR activation. I think somewhere between the Dr. Mindy's view and James Clement's view. So I think it is pretty good ratio, and it is a good cycling of pain and recovery. Now, pain and recovery or stress and recovery is something that Yu Suzuki, who is the author of Furochoju Method, it's a Japanese bestseller book on health and longevity. So he says that he has kind of looked at over 3,000, scientific data on longevity, and then he found a common element. That is, everything has the cycling of pain and recovery, stress and recovery, kind of hormetic stress. Yeah, that HIIT is one example. High intensity interval training. You have the 20 if you do in Tabata, for example, 20 seconds of kind of pain period and then 10 seconds of resting period. Yeah, always stress and recovery, pain and recovery cycling. Yeah. Okay, so the next point. Now, if you skip breakfast, it may affect your circadian rhythms, right? If you are just skipping breakfast, you're eating lunch. So you're eating something during the day too. So it's not too bad. Yeah. I mean, some people are still worried about not eating breakfast. Yeah. But you can do other things to set yourself with a circadian clock, such as taking a morning cold shower or morning sunlight exposure or morning exercise. Yeah, they can all set you with a circadian clock. So if you practice those, even if you skip breakfast, still, I think you can live according to the circadian rhythms. Yeah. Now, when you are worried about circadian rhythm, you should worry about circannual rhythm and circamonthly rhythms too, because circadian rhythm is a natural cycle after all. Yeah. Now, so for example, according to the circannual rhythms, it is better to exercise more in summertime and fast more in wintertime. Because, the summertime, the day is longer, night is shorter, and wintertime, night is longer, day is shorter. So the same principle applies with the circadian rhythm. So fasting nighttime, eating daytime. So maybe in the summertime, you can eat more and you can exercise more. Yeah. In the wintertime, you can kind of stay quieter and then you can eat less. Yeah. So you can change your fasting schedule according to the season. And also the lunar cycle too. So we have the new moon and full moon twice a month. So usually it is good to do fasting on new moon and full moon So you can practice intermittent fasting during the week, close to the new moon and the full moon, just twice a week, like 2 weeks a month. That is one option. Or you can do a prolonged fasting on the new moon day and a full moon day. Yeah, there are many ways to do, but you also want to pay attention to the lunar cycle and the circannual rhythm as well as circadian rhythm. Okay, so what I recommend, yeah, is, I mean, it really depends on who you are and what you are aiming and your, circumstance, everything, affects. So there is no one method that works for everybody. So you need to find your own. But so, after considering all those aspects, what I recommend so far is, Hare and intermittent fasting and one with prolonged fasting. Like, once a week prolonged fasting. Yeah, maybe 24-hour fast is good because 36 hours is a little too long for many people. So this is probably the easiest way. Yeah. So practice 17-hour fast 4 days a week, and then 1 day a week, 24 hours fast, and then have 3 meals on the weekend. Yeah. And then the weekend is a protein loading period, so you can have more protein on the weekend. Yeah. So during the week is still autophagy activating period. So like smaller protein intake, and then the weekend Hare period, a bigger protein intake. But on Tuesday and Thursday, in my case, I have a fish. So that means I do have a slightly higher protein intake on those days. Plus, fish has, omega-3 fatty acid. That is a very important nutrient as well. So it is very well balanced in that sense. Or you can do 1 day a week, 36 hours fast. Yeah. If you do that, the next day you eat 3 meals. So 17 hours fast, 3 days a week, 36 hours fast, 1 day a week, and then 3 days a week, 3 meals. Yeah. And yet still on Thursday, stay with a plant-based with fish and not including meat and stuff. And then the weekend is more the protein loading period so that you can still have the distinction between Ke and Hare. Yeah. Or you can just practice prolonged fasting and not intermittent fasting. So 136 hours fast and 124 hours fast, and then rest you just eat 3 meals. Yeah. Again, during the week, stay with a plant-based and then maybe occasionally fish. And the weekend, you can include some other animal protein sources. And it is the protein loading period. Or you can just practice one 36-hour fast and then rest, eat 3 meals. Yeah. And then you can still make a distinction between, Ke and Hare with this system, but you don't need to think about protein loading period so much because you are getting enough protein almost every day. Yeah. Now, with the Hare and Ke intermittent fasting, we have a quota system. That means every quarter, so every 3 months, you end your program and then you take a 1 week break. Yeah. So, and then during that break, you kind of review your quota, whether it was working for you or not, were you comfortable, was it doable, and all those things. And then you change your strategy. You think of new strategy for the next quarter. So you don't practice the same schedule all the time. You change, yeah, every quarter, yeah. So that diversity is critical with this system. Now, so people talk about protein, yeah, but what is important is not only the protein, yeah, having a good nutritional balance. That is important, yeah. For example, people talk about muscle mass, for the injury prevention, but bone density is as critical if you want to prevent from falling. Yeah. And then to have bone density, you also need vitamin K2, vitamin D, calcium, and magnesium. Yeah. So not only the protein, you need to think about all those other nutrients as well. Plus, generally speaking, sufficient carbs, sufficient vitamins, minerals, protein, fat, yeah, all those nutrients are important. And also fiber, yeah. Diverse fiber to feed diverse gut microbiome. Gut microbiomes are critical for health and longevity. You need to feed your gut microbiome with diverse fiber, all kinds of fiber, plus fermented foods. So in that sense, natto is perfect food because for the protein, vitamin K2, and fiber. Yeah, right. And also, excessive intake of only animal-based protein can cause an excessively acidic internal pH, leading to kidney and liver dysfunction and weakening of bones, right? So in that sense, it isn't good to only eat meat and fish. Yeah, occasionally you need some plant-based protein. Yeah, it's good to eat a lot of beans, especially natto. Yeah, so the bottom line is diversifying your protein sources. That is critical, right? And you don't want to be tossed around with new information, because I mean, I don't know. All those people were promoting intermittent fasting a few years ago, but all of a sudden they kind of changed. Yeah, what they were saying because of the new scientific data, yeah, maybe new data was discovered, so they changed their mind. That happened. I mean, that is okay. Yeah. However, sometimes people like new topic, especially if they are YouTubers. They are kind of uploading the video, they want to create a new topic and they want to gain attention. So by saying like, I stopped intermittent fasting, many people become curious. Oh, why? So it's attention grabbing methods too. So you don't want to take every information too seriously for that sense. Yeah. And also, when you are looking at scientific data, it depending on how you interpret too. And that is why there is a conflicting information about this protein intake, the protein amount. Yeah, there's a big division between some experts. Yeah, why? They may be looking at the same data, but they have a different kind of interpretation. Or this data might change again. Yeah, if it changed within the last few years, it might change again in the next few years. So who knows? I mean, the same people might say, "Oh, I started intermittent fasting because we discovered new data." That's possible. So, would you be, tossed around each time when they say something, or just follow your intuition, follow the common sense? Yeah. The reason why I don't rely on scientific data so much, I mean, I do a little bit, but not too much, is precisely this point. And I base my information on ancient wisdom. Yeah, because ancient wisdom is timeless. It is something that has been practiced throughout centuries. Yeah, it's a proven method. Good example is the Blue Zone, the Centurions Blue Zone. Their lifestyle is, they are the living proof of longevity. So if you follow that, then you will not fail. Yeah, because it won't change within a few years, right? Okay. But the most important thing is follow your intuition. Like, how do you feel? Do you feel intermittent fasting is working? Then to continue. But if you feel it isn't working, maybe you need, more protein and stuff like that, then do that. Yeah. Okay, so if you want to know about Hare and K intermittent fasting more in details, please read Ikigai biohacking. And when you practice intermittent fasting, it is critical what you eat during your eating window. Then please read the Ikigai diet. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you very much. Again, my name is Hachiaki Takamiya. I am the author of the Ikigai diet and Ikigai biohacking. If you like this video, please give me your thumb up and subscribe to my channel. And please leave your comment. Do you practice intermittent fasting? And if you do, how do you practice it? What sort of intermittent fasting do you practice? Thank you. Well, I'll see you in the next video. Live with your Ikigai!